Good? Enjoying the conference, right? I know I definitely am. During the networking mixers, I actually had a chance to speak with a lot of you guys and really go over your stories, right? And hear some of the challenges that you guys have for your organization. So I'm going to give you my story. I'm going to pull back the curtain and reveal my experience in establishing a data strategy for USC. So I'm going to talk about our formulas for success. What's our secret sauce for utilizing data to actually admit students, keep them retained, and so on. I'm going to give you examples of how we collect data and how we leverage data for actionable insights. I'm also going to have a few case studies and a cool video and things like that for you guys as well. But just to give you a little more background information about myself, as a digital brand manager of USC, a lot of people ask, well, what the heck is a digital brand manager, right? And why would a university have one? Well, essentially, it's my responsibility to expand the digital footprint of the university, to reach out to prospective students and engage with them on platforms which they reside, right? Now, I have a lot of experience in traditional marketing and digital marketing and so on. I recall my first marketing job was really handing out pizza coupons on Telegraph Avenue in UC Berkeley, right? I went from doing that to starting an agency. Then I got to start a bug and created an online social network, but Facebook happened. And then I ended up doing some consulting with various companies, Coca-Cola, Universal, Sony, Verizon, things of that nature. And I'm here today, but I don't consider myself a digital marketing expert. In fact, I don't think there is such a thing, right? With the digital landscape being so dynamic, how could one be an expert at something that changes constantly, right? But what I do love about digital marketing is that in order to be successful, you have to have a thirst for knowledge. That's why we're all here at Social Fresh, right? We want to expand our knowledge base. So one of the ways that I do that is I blog, right? The best way to learn is to teach. I don't blog because I love writing. I blog because I actually get to engage with the community, and I actually get to write articles on new things regarding digital marketing, right? So hopefully you guys will take some things away from this presentation, right? Now, just to give you a little background on my department, I work with enrollment services at USC, right? And enrollment services is an umbrella organization that houses admissions, financial aid, orientation, and registration. And so I work in communication, and we act essentially as an internal agency, right? And so we are responsible for developing and managing and measuring all of the marketing communications. And so I lead a digital team that's in charge of focusing on all digital communications, right? Now, our main objective is to use data to do two things. One is to increase the yield rate, and in higher education, yield is a rate in which a student enrolls after being accepted. And two, to increase retention, right? How can we use data to increase retention? So before establishing a strategy for the data, we have to learn the types of data we have to work with, right? We have our structured data, which is essentially the data that we currently have on students that fits nice and easy into various columns in, let's say, a spreadsheet. And then we have our unstructured data. This is very hard to collect, but it's the data that comes from social channels, right? Social chatter, things like that. So here's the secret sauce. Here's the strategy that I developed in order to help us reach our goals. So what we're going to do is we're going to take the historical performance of students, their academic performance and so on. We're going to add their demographic information to create a student profile, right? And then we augment that with social data to create a sentiment score, the likelihood of us actually acquiring that particular student. And for our second goal, retention, we take all the prior analytics that we have on that student that's currently on our campus, and then we listen, and we look at the social data that student's created, incorporate that for an attrition score to see if there's a likelihood that the student would graduate. Now, there are 4 ways that we essentially collect data. One of those ways is online listening. So we listen online. We listen to all open social media platforms. We listen to blogs, to forums. We listen to news outlets, and so on, for any mentions of our brand. We also use surveys. We create our own as well as we use third-party surveys. So we want to know exactly how our target audience is utilizing technology. We want to know what type of content they like to consume, and so on. We also have alerts, right? We make sure that we have our pulse on top of all conversations regarding our brand. So if there is an influx in mentions of our brand, then we know how to react accordingly. And we have all this displayed on our digital dashboards, right? It gives real-time analytics. Now, in order to increase the efficacy of our communications, we have a customer service function, right? We know that students want to ask questions, and this really allows us to alleviate some of the stress from our call centers, right? And so we have students ask questions, and from those questions, we're able to collect this unstructured data. Here's an example of actual questions that students ask for our USC Admissions USC Admissions Twitter channel, Twitter handle. And so you'll notice this unstructured data here, we particularly looked for keywords, reoccurring themes, things of that nature, so that we can see if there's any gaps in the communication. So we'll send out emails, we'll send out print collateral in the mail, we'll have things posted on our website. So we'll look at that, and we'll also look at the type of questions that are coming in through our social channels. So as you see, there could be a gap in that communication based on the types of questions that are being asked. So what we want to do is we want to figure out how we can fill that gap. What we're able to do is also tag various segments through online listening and through the questions asked through social media. So for example, if there's a potential student who's asking questions about the application process, right? We tag them as applicant. If there's a student who received an acceptance and they tweet something or they Instagram a photo of their acceptance packet, we'll tag them as accepted. If there's a user that touts about the good old days on SC's campus and welcomes the new class, we'll tag them as alumni. Parents and transfers and so on, right? Now, there's 2 benefits from doing this. One is we're able to get an instant analysis, a sentiment analysis of each of those segments. We're also able to directly message some of those users in those segments, right? So if there is an email that goes out or a print collateral campaign that goes out, and we find information out about them not really retaining the information, then we can actually send them direct messages on their social profile, all right? So just to give you an example of our enrollment funnel, it's very similar to a sales or marketing funnel, right, for any particular industry. We have the prospect phase, we have the admitted phase, we also have the enrollment phase and the graduation phase, right? So how are we going to collect data in each and every one of these phases? So for the prospect phase, we want to utilize data to reach more prospective students. In the admitted phase, we also want to identify and address any online conversations, questions that are coming in through those Twitter handles, right? Through social listening and so on. And again, this goes back to the secret sauce that I mentioned in the beginning. In the enrollment phase, we want to utilize data to improve the yield of admitted students. And lastly, for the retention phase, graduate phase, we want to increase the retention rates as well. Now, I know that if there's any engagements on our social platforms, it really helps us to move a prospective student along that funnel. And this is similar to any industry, right? If someone engages with your brand online, if someone engages with it through social media, you'll find that it's easier, there's more interactions in that particular funnel, right? And so what I did was I created a digital marketing funnel to make sure that we are bringing in more prospective students through our social media. But first things first, we have to build our social media, right? We have to build our following. The second step is really to engage with those users, right? So we want to give them advice. We want to provide them with exclusive content, right? And once we have their attention, we want to drive them to action. We want them to come visit campus. We want them to register for an off-campus reception in their local area, right? And once they apply, and those who are admitted, we want to engage with them and send them information on how great USC is, what it's like to be a part of the Trojan family, what it's like to live and to learn on the campus of USC. Now, all of this sounds great, right? We established a strategy on how we're going to use data as actionable insight, but none of this can happen unless you have buy-in. And I'm sure some of you can attest to that, right? When you have some of your social media initiatives, before anything happens, you have to get the buy-in from your senior managers, right? And so for me, I break down social media to its simplest form on how they're able to use it and how social media is replacing some of the traditional ways that we do business, that we manage our productivity, and so on, right? Now, once we get their buy-in, it's more than just reposting, repurposing your content that you have on your website through your social media, right? Let's go above that, right? That's what I'm trying to tell all of my senior managers. Let's go above that, right? And it's also more than just engaging with your audience. So you have the engagements between your brand and your potential consumers. Social should be more than that, right? It should be about the experiences. So what type of experiences are your potential consumers getting from your brand? And how can social amplify that, right? So that's one thing that I always tell my team. Now, we're able to provide these types of experiences based on the social listening, based on the unstructured data that we're getting, right? So we listen, and one of the reoccurring themes and one of the reoccurring questions was actually dorm life on USC's campus. More and more students were asking about that. What is it like to actually live on campus? So we saw that gap in communications, and we actually filled it with this particular execution. This is a case study about dorm life on USC's campus, and it was created based on social listening. Now, it's inspired by MTV's Cribs, right? We actually wanted to create something that was engaging, that was relevant, and that was cool, right? And so here's an example.
This is Parkside Arts and Humanities dorms. This is our friendly staff here at Parkside. Hey, what's up? And this is where we check in, just like CSI. Let's go upstairs. These are my roommates. Hey, there's me. Alright, welcome to our common room. We just celebrated Halloween, so we have a little decorations going on. Here's our table. We even have a piano for my roommate because he's a jazz major. Let me take you into my room.
Let me slip into something a little more comfortable. One sec. That's better. Come on in, let me show you around.
La 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 la. Yo.
Well, this is my room. I got my chair here. This chair I brought all the way from my home state of Ohio. We got, of course, my fridge, which came with the room. Lots of Arizona iced tea in there. Oh, yeah. And then I got all my posters, my Christmas lights, all my reading, of course, my handy-dandy record player. Couldn't leave home without it. And, of course, I'm a member of the USC men's crew team. Our first race is on Sunday, and we're gonna kill UCLA. Woo, fight on! And these are all my friends back home. I miss them a lot, but I've made tons of new friends here at USC. It's been great showing you guys around, but I gotta get back to my homework. Come on. Get out of here. All right, see you guys.
Now that's an example of a particular execution, right? From listening online, seeing if there's any gaps in the communication, and really giving students the information that they need. But doing it in a way that's relevant and that's cool, and that's something that can possibly become viral and that they can share with other prospective students, right? Now, we created about 4 or 5 videos, and we plan on doing this every year, showcasing the distinctiveness of our students' dorms and some cool, innovative ideas that they use to actually build their dorms. And this was a great success for us. When you search USC dorms on Google or on YouTube, we're on the first page, right? And essentially the title is an actual keyword, USC dorms, right? So this just gives you an example of how you're able to utilize data, right? Collect your data and use that to fill the needs of your prospective audience, right? Now, I went in with this. Jeffrey Moore, a data scientist, says, without big data, you're blind and deaf in the middle of a freeway, right? I love this analogy, right? Because it really gives you perspective. And it's a graphic analogy that really shows you how your organization is positioned if you don't utilize big data to solve some of your challenges, to solve the challenges of some of your consumers, right? So whether you're in higher education, whether you're in health or entertainment or a part of a CPG organization, all of your customers are on the web, right? And the majority of their transactions with your organization are digitized, right? So it's up to you to really begin to start incorporating data collection in each phase of your marketing funnel, right? So like Jeffrey Moore states, on this information highway, right, if you open up your eyes and look at the data that your prospective consumers are generating and listen to what they're saying, you would be able to generate content that fills those gaps. You'd be able to know a little bit more about your potential customer and then create content to meet those needs. Thank you.